Democratic presidential candidate former Vice President Joe Biden approaches reporters to answer questions following a campaign stop at Lindy's Diner in Keene, New Hampshire, Saturday, August 24, 2019. App photo, Michael Dwyer, Associated Press. The former vice president, career politician, and the front-runner in most polls to be the Democratic Party candidate to take on Donald Trump is the only man who can save China in 2020. That's obviously Joe Biden. And he's clobbering everyone in enough polls to call him the front-runner. Despite the gaffes, despite the low turnout at his speeches and the recent gathering of a reported 15,000 in Seattle who came out to see Elizabeth Warren, Biden's got her and Bernie Sanders beat. According to a new Morning Consult poll released yesterday, Biden leads with 33% of intended votes among Democratic primary voters. That's nearly equal to no. 2 Sanders, 20%, and no. 3 Warren, 15%. To put his numbers into greater perspective, Biden has 12 percentage points more support than Kamala Harris, Peter Buttigieg, Beto O'Rourke, Cory Booker and Andrew Yang, combined. It is safe to say that Biden is corporate America and Wall Street's best bet for a return to status quo on China. China's stock market would rally, bigly, as Trump would say. Companies are sick of trade war uncertainty. President Trump has a year left to make life with China livable again. App photo, Andrew Harnack, Associated Press. Biden's website has an option to read it in Spanish, but you would be hard-pressed to find anything there regarding his position on China. In a speech in July, Biden criticized Trump's trade war and said, without naming names, that if he was fighting China on intellectual property rights, for instance, he would enlist allied nations. China can't afford to ignore half the global economy if we're united. That gives us substantial leverage to shape the future rules of the road on everything from the environment to labor to trade to technology to transparency, Biden said. Problem is, those rules of the road were already written in the World Trade Organization's rulebook when China joined it in 2001. Biden also talked about stronger intellectual property, but China is already protecting IP more than ever, so one can assume that he would be fine with China's moves in that direction and leave it at that. A Bernie win is not good for China. Democratic presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders looks on as panel members discuss his criminal justice reform plan during a town hall meeting on Sunday, August 18, 2019, in Columbia, South Carolina. App photo, Meg Kennard, Associated Press. Sanders has been consistent on China for years. It is not a talking point with him as it feels with Biden. Sanders can be counted on to track the views of Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who has sided with Trump consistently on the China front. For free traders, Sanders is unlikely to revamp ex-President Obama's Trans-Pacific Partnership, a trade arrangement between Pacific Rim nations that ostracized China. The TPP is not the way to bring manufacturing jobs to mid-sized cities across the country. That's the way to get rid of them and build warehouses to store made-in-Asia goods instead. Therefore, Sanders is negative for China trade and negative for China stocks. Elizabeth Warren won't save China either. CNBC host Jim Cramer said he thinks Warren would be tough on China. There's no trade talks with Warren, Cramer said. Trump's deal is a better deal than Warren is offering. Warren is a die-hard economic nationalist. Call her the kinder, gentler Trump, minus the tax cuts. Wall Street will absolutely hate her before they learn to live with her. Barring surprising tweets early in the morning, China won't see much difference if Warren wins. Warren's campaign page is also short on China. It's not mentioned, but NAFTA is. She hates the new version as much as she does the old version and says she will vote against the US Mexico-Canada agreement when the time comes in September. knowing that it is easy for Beijing to assess where she comes down on China trade. Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, D-Mass, speaks during a rally Monday, August 19, 2019 at Macalester College during a campaign appearance in St. Paul, Min. App photo, Jim Moan, Associated Press. Biden is the best chance for a return to the status quo on trade, says Scott McCandless, a principal at PwC in Washington, D.C. and leader of their U.S. trade policy practice. Best chance may be an understatement. Biden is China's only chance. I still wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket with regards to Biden, says McCandless. If you look at Schumer's position on China, I think here's where the Democratic Party messaging will be. They'll have their own theory and own solutions, but I hear them saying the same things as Trump, and Schumer is telling Trump to stay strong on China. Some in the market see a Trump, Pence versus Sanders, Warren as being the main event next summer. Trump versus Bernie would be a WWF heavyweight title match, says Vladimir Signorelli, head of investment research firm Bretton Woods Research. Companies are getting tired of the trade war uncertainty. Unlike Wall Street, they say they do not need lower interest rates. They are not having problems with credit. They are not investing in the US or abroad due to uncertainty. Will tariffs go up? Will tariffs go down? If I move to Vietnam, will they be tariffed next? What are my competitors doing? All of this is like finally facing the fact that the leaking pipe in the ceiling that you've ignored for years has now torn through the drywall and is leaking in your bathroom closet. You don't want to take everything out of there and remove the shelves and rip the ceiling out. You don't want to call the local plumber and handyman. You don't really feel like forking over the money for this, but you have to do it. Economic weakness, good for China. Global equities are being pressured by the trade war in addition to a slowing, decade-old economic expansion in the U.S. App photo, Eugene Hoshiko, Associated Press. The global economic backdrop remains poor and global manufacturing is contracting. A synchronized global recession is an increasing probability, says Neil McKinnon, an economist with VTB Capital in London. U.S. economic stagnation is good for China. It increases the odds of Trump losing next year. The U.S. PMI manufacturing index fell to its lowest level since 2009. Eurozone PMIs are all in contraction territory, with Germany heading into a recession. Asian PMIs are also negative and export growth is declining as China's economy takes a hit from the trade war. China's currency has depreciated and is now over 7 to the dollar for the first time in years. Their central bank will likely reduce interest rates and reserve ratio requirements to spur lending. The European Central Bank, already at zero interest rates, is lining up new QE to keep the negative interest rate bond market alive. The Fed is likely to reduce the Fed funds rate by 25 basis points this fall. A restart of the Fed's QE program is possible, giving candidates like Biden a reason to call Trump's stellar economy into question as life support kicks on again. According to Morning Consult, Trump's net approval rating has collapsed since his first year in office thanks, in part, to incessant headlines about the president being illegitimately elected and thanks to the help of the Russian government. With that story is over, Trump's net approval rating remains abysmal. Trump needs to change voter perception over the next 12 months. Especially in Ohio and Pennsylvania, two states he must win to keep his job in Washington. And keep the Chinese on their toes. Let's block ads. Why?